Namaste. We'll start today's session. Namasundara-nathaya tasmai halasya vasine chatushashti vidhalila yenakari bhuvasthale Shrimat Sundara-nathasya devim shabharalochana kalaye hridaye nityam kadamba vanavasinim putam swataf putataram tatoyat gangam payash shankara mauli sangat tatpatu matav pranayaparadha padahatev putatamam tato naha. Last session we finished with the 15th shloka. Savyam vapuhu shabdamayam purarehe arthatmakam dakshinam amananti angam jagan mangalam aishwaram tadarhanti kavyam katham alpapunyaha. Savyam vapuhu shabdamayam. So, talking about the shabda and artha that form the shariram of kavyam, Nilakanta Dikshita takes his reference from Kalidasa, and of course Vyoma-Samskrta is the original there. Though Kalidasa was the first one to probably, the first one. I can't be sure that he is the first one, but yes, in Vagartha Vivasampraktau, Vagartha Pratipattaye, Jagatah Pitaro Vande Parvati Parameshwaro, Ityatra, he starts off by doing his Namaskaram for Parvati and Parameshwara to attain the knowledge of Vak and Artham. The same way that because it is the answer is given in Vyoma-Samskrta, and Kalidasa bases that bases his Mangala Shlokam off of Vyoma-Samskrta, and here he takes the Dikshita takes from the Purana and quotes here from Shiva Puranam. Vyoma-Samskrta is part of Shiva Puranam. And there it is given that Shabdajalam Ashesham Dhatte Sharvasya Vallabha. Here too, Savyam Vapuhu Shabdamayam. The left bhagam of Shiva in the Ardhanari Swarupam, you have that the left part is Parvati and the right part of the body is Shiva. So Savyam Vapuhu, the left side is that of the form of words, and the right side is Arthatmakam, Arthabhutam Asti. Tari angam jaganmangalam aishwaryam etat kavyasya angam. The entire body of kavyam is not, you can't look at a kavyam in a very simple manner. It is Shiva Shaktyatmakam kavyam tat tasmat alpa punyaha katham arhanti. Someone who does not have so much of punya in his bank account, then he can't even understand. Kartum parikshitum cha na karoti. The earlier shloka we had that it is very difficult to either write or even analyze kavyam and understand it, because it is of the form of both Shiva and Parvati. Not only that, he continues in this fashion and says in the next shloka, in the 16th, Stotum pravritta shruti rishwaram hi na shabdikam praha na tarkikam va brute tutavat kavihi iti abhikshnam kashtapara sa kavita tato naha. Not just only that, but if you take up Shruti, which is the Vangmaya, the ultimate parakashta for Vangmaya. So anything, any form of speech, the source of all speech is Shruti, is Vedas. So that Veda, when it talks of Shruti, when it talks of Ishvara, it doesn't call him as Shabdika, natu tarkikaha iti ahuhu. They don't talk of Ishvara as Shabdika. Shabdika is a Vaiyakarana. And Tarkika ityukte Nayyayikaha athava Vaisheshikaha iti api vaktum shakyate. So he's not spoken of as a Nayyayika or a Vaiyakarana. Instead, Tavat Kavihi iti Abhikshnam Brute. Abhikshnam Punah, again and again, Ishwaram Kavihi iti brute. Ishwaram Kavim brute. If you want to directly say it, you can say with Dvitiya. Otherwise, Prathama Vibhakti Upayujya Kavihi iti brute. You'll have to use iti there when you say that. So the idea here is, 1 minute, sorry. Yeah. The idea here is, Shruti, when it wants to praise Ishvara, Ishwaram stotum pravrittahi shrutihi. So when it starts to praise Ishvara, na shabdikam, nahi tarkikam ahuhu. it does not call him as, neither does Shruti call Ishvara as a grammarian, one who knows the words. Shabdikaha iti padasya vyutpattihi. You'll have to look at Panini, where he gives a specific shabdam, a specific sutra for this word. There is no doubt that Nilakanta Dikshita is a great grammarian, because the word Shabdika itself is formed by one sutra called Shabda Darduram Karoti. Shabdam Karoti iti Shabdikaha, Darduram Karoti iti Dardurikaha. That is frog. And here Shabdikaha is, it is not someone just randomly who makes Vachalaha itina. Shabdikaha ityukte prakriti pratyayadi vibhagena shabdam janati. Na kevalam shabdameva janati tatra shabda kosham janati itina. He knows the specificities or the etymological derivation of each word along with its prakriti and pratyaya. Pratyaya vibhaga purvakam saha janati shabdana iti karanat shabdikaha. You can say vayyakaranaha. So Shabdikaha is a person who understands, or even an expert in Nirukta can also be called a Shabdika. But Ishvara is not mentioned in the Vedas as Shabdika. The other thing is, next one is Tarkaha, Tarkikaha. Tarka Shastram yaha janati, Tarkam adhite. This again is a word like Alankarika and Alankritika, where there is no Panini sanction for this word. But because there are words formed for this particular, for branches of studies like Nayayika, Kalpika, Mimamsaka, we also take Tarkika to be formed as in the same manner. Because Tarka is a later term that was used when the branches of Nyaya and Vaisheshika were combined, and it was called Tarka Shastra. Initially, if you look at the 6 darshanas, you have Sankhya Yoga, Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Uttaramimamsa, Purvamimamsa, Uttaramimamsa. So Nyaya and Vaisheshika were separate, but there were a lot of common aspects to it. So Tarka Shastra came about to integrate both of these 2 darshanas. And later there were people, so it was called Prachina Nayayika, and then they were actually Navina Nayayika only. They took some aspects from Vaisheshika also, yet we seem to keep calling it as Tarka Shastra, and the Tarka Shastram yaha adhite athava yaha janati, tam we call him as a Tarkika. Okay, but in the Vedas, it is not, Ishvara is not indicated by the name of Shabdika or Tarkika. So Ishwaram stotum pravritta shrutihi, tam Ishwaram Shabdikam na praha. It did not say him as a Shabdika. Natu nava Tarkikam praha. It does not talk of him as a Tarkika also. Tu tavat, kintu tavat nischayena abhikshnam punaf punaha kavihi iti brute. There are many references. If you just take up the, there is a text called concise alphabetical list of the words in Rigveda. If you just look at those, that kosha, you will find the reference of Kavi in many places across either Rigvedam, Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharvaveda. All 4 Vedas have the word Kavihi for Ishvara. Even in Upanishads, you find the word Kavi. So, Abhikshnam punaf punaha, again and again, Kavihi iti brute tataha, tasmat karanat. Because of that reason, sa kavita naha parakashta. Kavita, the poetry, is the greatest limit for us. Parakashta. It is the final limit. Para is final and kashta is actually sima. Sima, so it is the final limit for us, nothing else. People say, after studying Kavyam, you go to Darshanas, then you go to Vedas or Veda Bhashyam, Ityadikam. Tatra, you have many Shastras and everything. In order to understand Shastras, I am starting the study of Sanskrit language. See, this is the very common attitude with a lot of people, that I want to understand Shastras. See, this is what Nilakanta Dikshita, a person who knows Shastras, who lived the life of a, he was born in the family of a great Mimamsaka, like Ape Dikshita was a Mimamsaka. He was a Vedanta Shastra exponent also. That Nilakanta Dikshita says that Kavita eva naha parakashta. That is our final limit. Because it's the idea that, you know, after reading Shastras, you have to come back to Kavita to enjoy that, to feel that the application of the Shastras here. Right? I just took a few examples because otherwise we won't understand why Shruti mentions Kavihi so often. Ishvara, in the Vedas, there are different types of devas that are mentioned in the Vedas. One is Rudra, Indra, Ganapati, Vayu. तदनन्तरम् उपनिषदि तु ज्ञानकाण्डम् अस्ति इति कारणात् तत्र परमात्मस्वरूपिणी Paramatma and you know, even in either it is Sakshi Chaitanyam or in the as the Paramatma, Kavihi is the word that is used as an adjective for them. Visheshana Rupena eva upayuktam tatra. So the first one here is Tvesham Vayam Rudram Vankum Kavim Avase. So Rudram Kavim, that is our main point here. The next one is of Indra, Kavihi Amitauja Ajayata. Another Rik also talks of Vayu as Kavi. So Kavihi, the meaning there given by Sayana Bhashya in Sayana Bhashyam is Kavihi Kavim Kranta Darshinam Athava Kavihi Medhavi iti Uktam. So the both Medhavi is someone who is very intelligent. Medha asya asti, uha poha jnanam asti, pandito medhavi. See, the difference between panditaha and medhavi is pandita is just panda asya asti iti panditaha. Buddhihi kevalam tasya asti. He doesn't know how to use it properly. It is not enough if you just keep on collecting knowledge. You have to know how to turn it into wisdom. So that is where uha poha jnanam. Uha poha is the example that Upanishad gives is, you know, there is a person who is panditaha, there is a medhavi, let's say. Pandita is a person who understands instructions, but you know, if I say you go straight in this road and you will hit the house that you're searching for. But then if you go straight, the road automatically turns, and then you don't see the road turning, but you just keep on going straight, then you're not a medhavi. You don't use uha poha jnana. If you have to use uha, but then you decide that it is the road that we have to follow, not the direction that we have to follow. So based on the situation, you analyze what the situation is and try to apply the instructions that are given there. Sahayeva medhavi iti uktam. Tasmat kavihi atra medhavi is the nirvachanam that Sayana Bhashya gives. Kavihi Kranta Darshi. I think in for Kranta there is another definition. Kranta Darshanaha in Niruktam Atita Anagata Viprakrishta Vishayam Yugapat Jnanam Yasya Saha Kranta Darshanaha. This is in a Vyakhyanam that Uvvata has written. So Kranta Darshanaha means Atita Anagata, something that is past, Anagatam, something that is future, and Viprakrishtam, Vishayam, Yugapata Jnanam, a person who understands that which is present, past, and future at the same time is a Kranta Darshanaha. And Kavihi Kranta Darshi iti Uktam, Kranta Darshanaha iti Uktam. That is why we have the quotation from Bhattatauta at the end, Nan Rishihi Kavihi iti Uktam. Na anrishihi kavihi iti uktam rishischa kila darshanat. Rishihi, a person is called Rishi because he sees the mantra. He is a mantra drashta. Vedas are called apaurusheyam. They are not man-made because the mantras have been seen or they have been, it was suggested to them or it abhivyakta manifested, right? So na anrishihi kavihi iti uktam, kavihi anrishihi iti na uktam, kintu rishihi ityeva uktam yataha darshanat, because he has the capability of seeing that is past, something that is future, and something that is happening now also. Vichitra bhava. And what is this darshanam? Darshanam is not just something seeing. It is vichitra bhava dharma amsha tattva prakhyahi darshanam. Prakhya, either kirtihi athava prakhya tulya. So vichitra bhava dharmamsham, vichitra bhavaha, tatra dharmamshaha api santi. Tattvam is something that is very natural. A kavi has the capability of seeing something that is essential to an object. When we look at an object, we probably look at something very peripheral, very outwardly. We don't look at the essence. We don't look at the different purposes of an object. There are only some people who are able to visualize the visualize an object in its entirety. That a kavi is capable of doing. So tattva darshi saha dharmamsha darshi api. Tatra dharma vishayaha kaschid asti chet tadapi, he is able to highlight that and tell people. The vichitra bhavaha, because he uses different types of bhavam emotions to express himself. And that makes him bring out the dharmamsha and the tattvamsha of anything in the world. That is why he is called a rishi. He is not an ordinary person. Kavi is not just an ordinary person that we think of. So Kavihi, Manishi, these are in the Vedas because there are different devas. You have Kavim Kavinam Upamash. This is a very popular thing. Gananam Tva Ganapati Havamahe, which is there in Yajurvedam also. I have specifically taken Rigveda quotation because it is only in Rigveda that it says Kavim Kavinam Upamashravastamam. I think in Yajurvedam it is Priyam Priyanam. So the quotation is different. And Ishavasya Upanishad, you have Kavir Manishi Paribhuhu Swayambhuhu, where it is the Atmaswarupa who is called as Kavihi Manishi Sarvakyattvata iti karana. Even there, Shankarabhashyam quotes Kavihi Kranta Darshanaha. Iti Niruktam, he quotes the Niruktam there, which gives the etymological derivations of all words. So, na anrishihi kavihi iti uktam rishischa kila darshanat vichitra bhava dharmamsha tattva prakhyahi darshanam. That is why, the study of kavyam without the background of shastra is vyartham. And the study of shastram without a background of kavyam is also vyartham. So that kavyam and shastram have to go hand in hand here. Stotum pravritta shrutihi Ishwaram. This now is an explanation to the earlier shloka, which is tad arhanti kavyam katham alpapunyaha. Yatra shrutihi api Ishwaram kavihi iti vadati tarhi alpapunyaha janaha katham etat kavyam kartum parishilitum va shaknuvanti. So that's the connection between the three shlokas that you have. Stotum pravritta shruti rishwaram hi na shabdikam praha na tarkikam va brute tu tavat kavirit-yabhikshnam kashta para sa kavita tataha naha. Tataha tasmat karanat sa kavita, that poetry, naha asmakam, for us, para kashta, it is the superior, it is the ultimate limit or supreme limit for us. The next one is karnam gatam shushyati karna eva sangeetakam saikatavari ritya anandayati antaha anupravishya suktihi kavireva sudha sagandha. This follows the earlier 2-3 shlokas before. He was talking about gayanti veenaha venavaha api balaha jananti pashavaha api jananti, while comparing music and kavyam. Now, this is the shloka that you have to think of, the Nahinindar Nyayam. I think earlier also in the other class, one of the persons had pointed out it, right? So, Nahininda Nindyam Ninditum Pravartate Apitu Vidheyam Stotum. If something is being, scolded, if something is not being highlighted here, it is censured, then it is not the focus there is not on ninda, but the focus is there on stutyam anyat stotumeva tatra. That is where the focus should be, and not on the subject that is being nindyate. So karnam gatam shushyati sangeetakam music, when it falls in the ears, Karne eva, in the ear itself, dries up in the ear itself. Karne eva shushyati. It dries up in the ear itself. Like how saikata vari ritya, in the manner of water when it falls on sand, it just falls on that place itself. Anyatra sarvatra na prasarati. Yatha varshasu saikatasu varshati. Varsha varshati tatra megha varshati. The water falls in very sandy places. If it is a clay or a loamy soil, you will have the water falling and it spreads everywhere. Anyatra sarvatra prasarati. Ekatraiva vayam yadi sinchamaha tari sarvatra anyatra api prasarati khalu. Parantu saikate, it just goes down. In desert, let's say in desert, if it has the capability of moving everywhere, then you won't have the concept of oasis. Right? Oases are just one small body of water where the water just falls there and it doesn't spread everywhere else. There are just few trees around that small body of water. That's all. So, tarhi tatraiva vari, tatraiva shushyati, tasmin sthane eva, anyatra na prasarati. Tatha karnam gatam. Gitadi dhvanihi tu yavat karnam prapnoti tavadeva tasya maduryam anubhuyate. Tadanantaram angeshu sarvatra na prasarati. So as soon as the sweet music comes to the ear, it just stops there. It doesn't go inside. It's tough for me to even justify this part, but we will just take it as nahi ninda nyayam, because there are times when the moment you hear music, Tamil solradhan best, it just envelops your entire body and just takes you to a different realm. Definitely music has that power. This is not to censure that music is bad or something. I'm convinced that Neelakanta Dikshita did not have even an ear for music. That's apart. So karnam gatam shushyati karne eva, in the ear itself, it just dries up completely. Whereas kavehe suktihi, kidrishi suktihi, sudha sagandha. Sagandha, gandhena saha vartate iti sagandha. It is very fragrant, just like nectar. So, sudha iva sagandha. Sudha amritam. Amritam iva, amritavat gandha yukta asti suktihi suvachana. Kavehe suvachana. The beautiful sayings or the wise sayings of a poet, which is extremely fragrant, sagandha, like a nectar, sudha iva, sa suktihi antah pravishya, antaha anupravishya. It enters inside manasi. Manasi gatva api tatra manaha anandayati. Paunah punyena pathyamana suktihi. It anupravishya. See, that anu indicates there are two things there. One is you can call it as paschat. So prathamam shrotram gacchati, tadanantaram antaha anupravishya. Tat paschat antaha pravishya. You can also take it like that, or anu is anusandhanam, repetitive. It can be used for repetitive also, that upasarga. So anupravishiti ityukte, you can also say again and again. So it goes inside again and again. It's not charvana. The charvana is extremely important for rasanubhuti. Not just once you read a shloka, you're not going to get. Sometimes, yes, it is. It definitely gives you that rasanubhuti if you also have that vocabulary, knowledge, and everything, and you are able to recognize, and it immediately touches your heart, and there is a rasanubhuti. Sometimes you read first, and then you understand, and then you try to analyze the whole thing, get the rasa. Then you close the book, and then you come back after maybe a few years, you open the book, all of your old things keep coming back. That is a charvana. Charvana is again and again, you go back to that shloka, then immediately that rasa just pops up in your mind and you are able to enjoy it. And so, antaha anupravishya. Manaha anandayati. It pleases the mind, or it gives joy. Anandayati, anandam karoti. Karayati, sukhayati iti. Okay. So karnam gatam shushyati karnayeva sangeetakam saikata variritya anandayati antaha anupravishya. Antaha anupravishya antaha anandayati. You can take that antaha. There's a nyayam of kakakshi golaka nyayam, something like that, where this one word can be included for both this side and this side. So antaha anandayati, antaha anupravishya, antaha anandayati. The term of that is, see, there is in Sanskritam, nyayas are often used to explain something, to say how words are connected. So here one word connects with both, where if you take a crow, the crow is supposed to have only one golakam. It has only one eye, it has only one eye, but there are two sockets, one on the left side and one on the right side. Don't scientifically ask me about all these things, please. So there is only one eye for the crow, and that one eye keeps shifting from the left side to the right side. So that's the idea here that the poets use to say kakakshi golaka nyayam. And one word itself, if it is used for both sides, then it is called that nyaya. Okay. So antaha anupravishya, it enters the mind, and antaha anandayati. It increases the joy, or it gives joy to the manas. If you don't want to take this nyaya, another way of saying is also, you can say antaha has two meanings. One is antaha manasi anupravishya, athava buddho anupravishya, tadanantaram antaha anandayati, antah karanam sarvatra antaha, everywhere inside it just gives joy to a person. So that also you can say. Okay. Yeah. Karnam gatam shushyati karnayeva sangeetakam saikata variritya anandayati antar anupravishya suktihi kavehe eva sudha sagandha. Can also say there is an utpreksha here. I'll have to think a little bit about that, because the suktihi is something that cannot enter directly into the mind. You read it, it is still present in the book. It's not such a chamatkara yuktam utpreksha. So I'll just leave it. Yeah. I know this is going to raise some questions. Apashyayam ekasya kavehe kritim chet saraswatam kosham avaimiriktam antah pravishya ayam avekshitas chet kone pravishta kavikoti resha. This is a very sad situation that a lot of poets experience. See, every poet does not get praised here. Sangeetakam karneyeva shushyati parantu kavehe suktihi antah pravishya anandayati iti uktam. It just enters and it creates a great joy. But does every poet give such a joy to everybody? No, we cannot think of just taking up a book like Naishadam and start reading and enjoy it. So what happens is only some people are able to appreciate that, because they have used so many words. They have in fact emptied out the entire kosham, emptied out the entire dictionary, and they have written their kavyam. They are actually kavi sreshthaha eva parantu kone pravishta. They are, in most cases, they are pushed to the background. It is not because of the inability of a poet. It's the inability of the reader that they have been pushed to the corner. So every poetry is capable of giving that joy to people, right? But some people, for some, it is a difficult process, because some people give more importance to using words that others have not used. So that is the highlight here in the shloka. So pashyayam ekasya kavehe kritim pashyayam chet. If I study one work of some poet, ekasya kavehe, ekasya kasyachana kavehe kritim rachanam kavitam yadi aham pathami pashyayam, if I look at some work of some kavi, then I see that I understand avaimi avagachami. I understand that saraswatam kosham riktam avaimi. I understand that the entire kosha, treasury of Saraswatam, Saraswatyaha ayam iti Saraswatam. Right? So tan vangmaya sambandhinam kosham samoham shabda samoham tu sarvam shunyam iti avagachami. He has completely taken the kosha. In fact, in Surya Shatakam, we were reading that a couple of weeks back, and in Surya Shatakam, the words he uses is just brilliant. That is, there are some words which are not even found in the kosha, but he coins those words using two, three different combinations and coins words for Surya Kirana. It's amazing. But the problem is nobody today takes up Surya Shatakam and studies it. It is not Aditya Hridayam, yes. Everybody, would talk about Aditya Hridayam. They will know Aditya Hridayam. They will know it memorized. They may even be capable of teaching Aditya Hridayam because it's a very simple text. But don't take it as simple, please. There are three different layers to Aditya Hridayam. One is a very peripheral layer. The other is Vedantic, and the other is Upasana Marga. All three margas are connected there. So it's not simple. It may seem simple. There are others like Surya Shatakam, where it seems as if the entire kosham has been emptied out and all of those words have been taken and put in this kavyam. So Saraswatam kosham, Saraswatyaha idam vagmaya sambandhinam kosham, purnam riktam abhavat. It is completely made empty, riktam. Iti avaimi. Antah pravishya ayam avekshitas antaha pravishya. After getting into the world of poetry, not into his work. Okay, antaha athava tat kritau pravishya, it doesn't make sense here. Yadi we go inside deeply and analyze deeply. Antaha pravishya. Yadi gabhirataya pariksham kurmaha chet tatra ayam kavihi avekshitas chet. If we analyze this poet in the sense of how much of popularity he had or how many people are studying this, if you take a poll like that, then you will find that esha kavikotihi. Esha kotihi ityukte shikharaha. Koti also means there are many meanings for koti. Koti is corner. Koti is agrabhagam. Agre saraha iti vaktum shakyate. Kotihi iti shikhara. Parvata kotihi iti ityukte parvatasya shikhara bhagam. Darhi pradhana bhutam asti. So in lakshanaya kotihi iti pradhana. Esha kavikotihi. This great poet Kone pravishtaha, ekadeshe pravishtaha saha. Kone ityukte, he is just pushed to one corner there. Right? He has been completely pushed to the corner because he is not really appreciated by a lot of people. Not many people understand the value of such a poet. So it's good to use simpler words. He goes back, he re-emphasizes, Nilakanta Dikshita re-emphasizes his own idea that yaneva shabdan vayam-alapamaha, yaneva cha arthan vayam-ullikamaha, taireva vinyasa vishesha bhavyaihi, kavayaha sammohayante kavayo jaganti. He uses the same words, a kavi has to use the same words and not use every kosha words. He can use, it is only to portray his own greatness there. And it also shows the inability of today's readers. We are unable to study these great poetry because we are not so, let's say, intelligent, or we have not studied so much. We have too many distractions in the world today. Right? So, pashyayam, ekasya kavehe kritim pashyayam chet. If I look at the poetry, the work of, if I view the work of a poet, then avaimi, I understand that Saraswati's treasury of words has been completely emptied. Saraswatam kosham riktam iti avaimi, antah pravishya. I can also say delving into his work. If I go into his work completely, or if I go into the world of the history of the Sanskrit literature, and if I regard this poet carefully, I am avekshitas chet. Tarhi Esha Kavikotihi, Esha Kavikotihi, it indicates only the Kavi here. Even though it is Trilingam, it Kavihi eva kotihi shikaraha. Tasmat kavi kotihi iti atra rupakalankaropi asti. So Esha Kavikotihi, this great poet, excellent poet, has been pushed to a corner. Kone pravishtaha, or he has entered a corner. In other words, he's been pushed to a corner here. Okay. Next one is, see, the problem that Kavis face, but it's a different margam that they face. That is why a lot of people, even though they are gone unappreciated, because it's very different from the normal conversation that we have. In a normal conversation, if someone does not talk straightly, we say, oh, he's not a straightforward person. He doesn't know how to talk properly. He only uses bombastic words. The same idea, he's unable to say it in a simplified manner. He just twists and turns and jilebi podramba. He's not able to say something in a very straightforward manner. But not saying in a straightforward manner is a great bhushanam for a kavi. You have to be like that. Vakroktayaha yatra vibhushanani vakyartha badhaha paramah prakarshaha artheshu bodheshu abhidayeva doshaha sa kachit anya saranihi kavinam. Kavinam kachit anirvachaniya anya vilakshana saranihi panktihi kavinam margaha. So it's a very different, the path of the poet, Kavinam Saranihi, path of poets, is something very different and vilakshana. It is kachit anirvachaniyam, it is inexplicable, and anya, it is a very different Saranihi path. Why? Yatra, wherein the path wherein vakroktayaha vibhushanani. Vakroktihi is an indirect expression. These are all, there are many technical terms in this shloka. I will explain those later. So initially, just the meaning. Vakroktayaha bhushanani. Vakroktihi is an indirect expression. So indirect expressions are vibhushanani, are ornaments. Vakyartha badhaha. Vakyarthasya badhaha ityukte, there is a either asambhava rupaha badaha athava anupapatti rupaha badaha. Something that is not possible or something that is unintelligible. That is, you cannot understand the meaning properly, then you go into another meaning. Like, for example, the earlier shloka that we saw, suktihi antah pravishya. So how can we say, half the time in Tamil we say, manasala vangiko. Vartaya manasala vangiko. In the sense, manasala, how can you take the words inside the mind? It is you understand the meaning of it in the mind. It is not just memorizing the words in the mind. So when I say you are understanding the meaning, I'm moving from the vakyartha to something called lakshyartha. We saw it when I explained about dhvani. I said there is something called a vachyartha, then the lakshyartha, and then the vyangyartha. So vakyam, you have a sentence, which is, there is a literal meaning to it, and the literal meaning, the process through which the literal meaning is understood is called abhidha. So abodhyeshu artheshu, in meanings that have to be understood, that which the poet is trying to convey, abhidha or direct expression is called dosha. So direct expression of suggested meaning, something that has to be in suggestion, should not be directly said. When I say Gangayam Griham Asti, Tatra, I don't use, if I say the full sentence of Yat Griham Ganga Tire Vartate, Tad Griham Pavana Yuktam Asti, there is no beauty in it. There is no chamatkaram there. I'm explaining too much according to a kavi here. So if I have to be a kavi, I'll have to give a short but beautiful expression, right? That is, I think the one story that we have is about Kadambari. So Bana Bhatta wrote a great work called Brihat Kadambari, and he did not finish that work. So he stopped in the middle and he fell ill. He wanted one of his sons to finish. He had two sons, and he asked them to compose. He showed a scene in front of the house where there was a very dry tree standing there, with just branches, no leaves, nothing. And there was a serpent on that dry tree. So Bana wanted his two sons to describe that tree. So the first son came and he said, Shushko vrikshas tishtatyagre, Shushkaha vrikshaha tishtati agre. A dry tree is standing in front. Taduparicha kaschit sarpopyasti. On top of it, there is a sarpaha. There is a serpent. This is a normal, straightforward ukti. This is not a kavi's ukti. So then he calls his second son, Bhushana Bhatta. Ultimately, Bhushana Bhatta is the one who completes Kadambari, because Bana dies in the half of it. And he is the one who completes. His way of describing that scene was, he says, Nirasa taruriha vilasati nikate. See the use of the words. Shushko vrikshas tishtatyagre. Instead of that, he uses nirasa. Nirasa without any rasam. Tatra shushkaha iti yat padam upayuktam. Tadeva atrapi tenaiva arthena parantu yaneva cha arthan vayam ullikamaha vinyasa vishesha bhavtehi. It becomes more beautiful when he uses a different word. He says nirasa taruhu. And the letters are also in a very soft manner. Nirasa taruriha vilasati nikate. Vilasati shines, natu tishtati. Tadupari manimaya kutila bhujangaha. There is a kutila, there is a vakra bhujanga, there is a crooked serpent which is manimayam, which is shining like a jewel. Maybe the sun is just falling on it, and the serpent is also shining there, right? So the way he formulates it is in a poetic fashion. So something that is straightforward is ignored by poets, and the margam, the approach that they use. We see this very commonly in our day-to-day life also. Say, for example, I cut my finger yesterday in the kitchen while cutting vegetables. This is a very common expression, and there is nothing chamatkaram there. If I were to explain it in a kavita fashion, I would say, this is a wound of war in the battlefield of kitchen or something like that. Then it changes the beauty of that expression. That is vakrokti. I'm using a different expression, which is an indirect expression there. If I directly say what is there, then there is no chamatkaram there. So vakroktayaha yatra bhushanani. This vakrokti is talked of as a very important aspect by every alankarika. Bhamaha says, Saisha sarvatra vakroktihi anaya atra arthaha vibhavyate. It is only this vakrokti that is present everywhere in a kavyam. And yatnaha asyam kavina karyaha. A poet has to make an effort to use such an expression. That's a very common expression that we find in Tamil. Why doesn't he speak straightforward? No, that is not accepted by a poet here. He has to use vakrokti. Samanya jananam krite tu prayaha it's a good gunaya bhavati, parantu atra kavinam cha doshaya iva. So yatnaha asyam kavina karyaha ko alankaraha anaya vina. There is no shabdalankara, there is no arthalankara without this vakrokti, without this twist of words. Shlesha sarvasu pushnati prayaha vakroktishu shriyam. This is by Dandi in Kavya Darsha. He says vakrokti and swabhavokti are essential in a kavyam. And wherever there is slesha, definitely vakrokti has something called either slesha, either with double meaning. You can use that, like in Kalamega Pulavar and all that. You can use slesha, or you can also say, okay, diplomatic way of saying. I like that. Diplomatic way of saying is true. Yes, that is probably closest to the poet's world. And vakroktihi can either have slesha, double meaning, or kaku. Kaku is also another beautiful thing where you use your tone. Simple things like if a child wants to go out, the mother doesn't want to say directly that no, you cannot go out. Instead, say, go. You know, that expression itself, the tone itself, you will immediately say, mom is upset here. What have I done? What should I do? I should not go out now. That tonal difference is called kaku. That if you use that tonal difference, that can also add to vakrokti. So vakrokti can be of two types. One is double meaning. The other is the tonal difference of using kaku. So a poet called an Alankarika, Kuntaka, has written a text called Vakrokti Jeevitam, where he says the Atma of Kavyam is Vakrokti. We have the Dhanyalokagara and all say that it is, Dhvani and everything. But in the later, after Dhvanikara, you find Auchitya as a very great topic that people have dealt with, and Vakrokti. These two are very important there. So Vakroktihi eva Vaidagdhya Bhangi Bhanitihi. Bhangi is twisted or valaivu, shulaivu, and when there is a indirect expression, a twisted way of saying things, bhanitihi, in a very clever manner, vaidagdhyam, right? Not in a very crass manner. It's very tough to understand what is the diplomacy, right? Not every people have that this thing, that understanding in their mind. So vakroktayaha yatra vibhushanani. So that part is over. The next is Vakyartha Badhaha. This I spoke about when we talked of Gangayam Griham, Gangayam Ghoshaha, where Vakyasya Arthaha Tatra Badhyate. Asambhava Rupaha, where you cannot have a house on top of Ganga. So you use the expression Gangayam Ghoshaha, and then you go into the Lakshyartha there. And you understand, right? Just as how suktihi antaha pravishya, when you say the words enter inside, the words don't enter literally inside. You take it as if they enter, but it is only the meaning that is being understood by the hearer. That is where the literal meaning is negated and you go into the intended meaning. So paramaha prakarshaha sayeva utkarshaha iti anubhuyate kavinam marge. The third one is arteshu, bodhyeshu arteshu. Now this bodhyeshu arteshu is of two kinds. One is what the kavi intends to say. The other can be what is suggested. Sometimes it can be both. Sometimes the Sahridaya can, a poet might just write without thinking something, but it might suggest a great meaning. The poet may not even realize that this is the pratiyamana artham that he wishes to put in. Because of bhakti, sometimes because of the upasana that he has gone through, words might just fall in place and the pratiyamana artham or the suggested meaning might be visible to the Sahridaya, but the poet may not have intended it in his mind. But if it does and it embellishes, it brings a great beauty to the poetry. So, bodhyeshu artheshu bodhyeshu pratiyamaneshu athava vivakshiteshu artheshu pratipadyeshu artheshu shabda pratipadyeshu artheshu abhidha ityukte sakshat shabdasya yaha vyaparaha. The literal denotation is talked of as a dushanam. You cannot say atra shringara rasaha asti iti karanat and you can't write a shlokam like this. You cannot mention shringara in the shloka itself. Then it is doshaya. So tatra abhida eva doshaha. Abhida is a fault in doshatvam bodhyeshu uchyate. This is a little difficult to construct when you think of it. So sa kachid anya saranihi. This route that a poet takes, a poet does not take a very normal route. He takes a very vilakshana saranihi. And that sarani, why is it vilakshana saranihi? He gives justification by saying that vakroktayaha yatra vibhushanani vakyartha vadaha paramah prakarshaha, because samanya janana krite tu vakra uktihi na shlaghya. It is not praised. Vakrokti. Romba vakra buddhi. You say, he has a crooked way of speech, crooked mindset. So it is not praised. Tari yatra kavyeshu eva tatra vakroktihi kirtyate. Vakroktayaha yatra vibhushanani vakyartha badhaha paramah prakarshaha artheshu bodhyeshu abhidayeva doshaha sa kachit anya saranihi kavinam. So this is a very different path that has been undertaken by a poet, which is very different from the normal samanya jana vyavaharat ativa vilakshana eva esha saranihi. Okay, I think I'll stop with this. Any questions? You can raise your hands. 1 minute. Yes, Mukya.
Namaste, Modi.
Namaste.
So in this verse that you just read, Vakruktihi. So now, can you call this as Virodhabhasa here? Like, he says Vakruti, but it's a Bhushanam. It's,
Okay.
Parama Prakarsha.
Two things. One is the Vachyam is Kavyalingam. Kavyalingena Virodhaha, I can say, is Dhvani.
Vachyam is Kavyalingam. Okay, Nama Hetuhu.
Hetu. So, Anya Saranihi eva. Kavinam Esha Anya Saranihi eva. So, it is a Vilakshana. Actually, you know what? You can't say Virodhaha there at all, because Anya itself is that Virodha has been Uktam here. So, you can't have Virodha as a Vyangyam. I would take it as...
what about Nindastuti then?
Nindastuti varade.
And Vakrukti சொன்னப்போ Ninda மாறி தெரியுது. Like Vakyartha Badhaha, it looks like it is, it's a negation. And then so everywhere it looks like a fault, but then actually it's a stuti, like it is actually a bhushanam, it's actually a
vyajastutihi iti. But yes, you can take it as vyajastuti. The problem is the first 3 parts are vyajastuti. Okay. So, but then the third part, the last part, actually supports all of this. No, it is kachid anya saranihi becomes an explanation part for it. You can, I think Vyajastuti is fine. You can take it.
Very nice. Okay.
Yeah, so because it is Kaswardhani Vivekaste, Kaswardhani Vivekaste, Papinopi Swargam Nayasi. So, Kaha Vivekaha, what is your, what is the greatness in taking even sinners to Swargam? That is Vyajastuti example that Abhay Dikshita gives. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe Vyajastuti is okay, but I'm a little doubtful about this Anya Saranihi. Kachid Anya Saranihi gives you that Vilakshanatvam and Anirvachaniyatvam. Then how will you connect it with the Vyajastuti is what I'm a little hesitant to call it. Yeah.
Even though he says Kachid Anya Saranihi, he doesn't say that it's a great Saranihi. There also it's suggestion that it is suggested that it's by Arthapati or something. You have to say it's great somehow, right?
Yeah, there is an alankara, Atishayokti alankara, with Atishayokti thane Anya eva or Vilakshana Rupakam, something, one of those. Rupaka Atishayokti, I think, is where it says Anya eva Gambhiryam, Anyat something, there is I'll have to check that and see.
Okay. And if you go to the previous one, previous shloka. Okay, so Kavi Kotihi, I mean, we're not denying that he's a great poet. He is a great poet.
Yeah.
But Kimartam Kone Pravishta.
Janaihi Kone Pravishtaha. Yatohi Saha na Avekshitaha. Or he is not being understood properly. Ajnanavashat.
Okay, because the Ajnanavashat Janaihi Kone Pravishta iti. Okay. Okay, got it. So now, so indirectly, Nilakanta Dikshita is justifying why he is planning to use simple words, Itiva.
Yes. It's a reinforcement of his own shloka before, 13th or something.
Saraswatam kosham riktam syat nama, he's used so many beautiful words such that they are not found in the kosha, or perhaps he used all kinds of complex words from the kosha. How do you take it?
So Saraswatam kosham riktam, he has emptied the entire kosha, which means he has used all of the words that are there in the kosha.
Okay. Okay, so antah pravishya na manaskulla, you said, right? You're going into the mind, understanding it, and then you said that it's like the deepa nyaya, dehali deepa nyaya or something.
Not
on
this,
both sides.
the other one,
No?
that is not here. The other shloka.
Oh, well,
Anandayati antaha anupravishya here, because you have both two verbs here, anupravishya and anandayati. Tatra ubhayorapi karma antaha eva.
Okay, antaha pravishya apicha antaha anandayati iti dehali deepanyaya va, like katam vaktavyam.
The kakakshi golakam dehali deepam, you can take it.
That's what you said. Okay. The kakakshi golakam was very interesting because I found a link which states the circular monocular vision of a crow. So that's amazing.
Okay, Arun Kumar Mandya. Yeah.
Madam, இந்த வக்ரோக்திஹி இரட்டை கிளவிங்கிற அர்த்தத்திலையும் வருமோ?
இரட்டை கிளவி உங்களுக்கு வந்து இல்லையே. இரட்டை கிளவி வந்து படபடா அதெல்லாம் வந்து இட் இஸ் அனோமட்டோபோயிக். சோ இட் இஸ் நாட் இது
வீப்சாங்கிற அர்த்தத்துல வந்து
வீப்சா அர்த்தம். யா, இரட்டை கிளவி வீப்சா. வக்ரோக்தி வந்து இந்த வளைச்சு சொல்றது, சுத்தி வளைச்சு சொல்றது, எதையுமே நேரடியா சொல்லாம இருக்கிறது.
Thank you.
Yeah. Next, yeah, Raman sir.
Regarding that music drying up in the ear, I think we talked about it last week or the week before last.
Yes.
I just thought that music has a duration of that ecstasy, if you want to call that, you know. Whereas kavyam, if one reads it properly, the chances are the person will be able to dwell on it for a period of whenever something comes to his mind, he may associate it with the kavyam that he may have read and see the beauty of kavyam.
Correct. So that applies only to people who cannot sing or who cannot, in it. That's what I feel. Because it's difficult for me to accept that shloka. I always take the side of the poet. Okay. Invariably 100%, but this shloka is like a little the only way to explain is nahi ninda nyayam. It's not to adha thitradhukku na varala avladha. See, even music at a point, sahityam may be powerful. See, one person has written that without raga is not very powerful. I will not accept that raga is not powerful. Nadopasana is the ultimate upasana also, because Nada Brahmam is talked of as on par with the Shabda Brahmam, the Parabrahmam. So now raga is as powerful as Sahityam. But it is only powerful for a person who understands that and the tanma. Adu purinjukanu. Tattvam. Tattvam yaha janati. Tasyaiva.
இவர் மாதிரி தியாகராஜர் மாதிரி இருக்கவங்க அதுலயே ஒழண்டு இருக்கிறதுனால
in personal experience, I am saying, half the time I don't even listen to the words, even though I understand, I teach Sanskritam and everything. When I sing a Tyagaraja Kriti, it is the words don't even enter my mind at that point. That is why I cannot accept this. So I was more exposed to music from young age than Sanskritam. So that's why.
There is you are right. The Nilakanta Dikshita is trying to bring out the fact that kavyam has the kind of dimension that music may not have. That's
right. Because it needs I think it needs a more susukshmartha jnanam, which is kavya abhyasena you can learn kosham, you can have shastra jnanam, and then you can try to understand kavyam. The effort put, yatnena prayaha ativa abhyasaha kriyate chet, then you can definitely master kavyam to a certain level and understand it. Any amount of teaching you where sa is, where pa is not going to bring in that extra intuitiveness about music in people. It is something that you have to be born with. Sorry. That's why I think he was unable to, he wanted to give that difference.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Namaste. I think that's all. Any other questions? So Dhvani is Atma of Kavya, music and words. I didn't understand this question. So if you can, yeah, I didn't understand that question. If anything else, then you can tell me. Okay, one more. Yes, Mother.
It's not a question actually. Dhwani, you say that music and words. When we hear the music, the dhwani, it reaches the mind. No, it reaches the mind. That's what I mean.
Definitely, it reaches the mind. Whether there are words, it's the words or not. Some people get extremely affected by music. It's just you can't deny that fact. So let's not dwell too much on that music part. We will think of why he has.
Okay. The dhwani is that Anandavardhana's dhwani is superior.
Different. So that dhvani is a technical term. Dhvani in music is just the sound, is mere sound. Yes.
Yeah. Yes, okay.
Okay. Yeah. Namaste. I think there are no more questions. You have something? Haridas Madhya? Okay. No. Okay. Thank you.